5 Crazy Glitch in the Matrix Stories. I live in a very small town. We have a small grocery store, hardware store, you know the drill. I was done getting groceries and hopped in my car to head home. As I pulled up to the end of the driveway of the store, blinker on to get onto the main road, I see a big, white, lifted Chevy pickup driving toward me that I need to wait for. I watch it as drives closer to me, remarking to myself that it looks so similar to my husband's, just older and rusted around the edges. It even has the same black emblem and large iron cross bumper. As the truck goes past me, my jaw nearly fell open. Staring at me intently was a man almost identical to my husband, but with a longer, graying beard, and gray hair around the ears. I quickly gathered myself together and pulled out behind the truck and up to the stop sign that followed. He was staring at me still in his side mirror, glancing away and then staring at me again. He took off like a shot the first chance he got, and I tried to follow to see which direction he took, but a car was coming and I couldn't get out behind him in time. The truck sped off toward my road, but I don't know if he turned in that direction or not. I know that's a little crazy, but I couldn't help feeling the total connection I feel with my husband when I saw his reflection in that side mirror staring at me. It gives me goosebumps to think about it because it was like he knew that I was me, and I was the wrong age, and that he needed to get out of there before I could follow. I got home and my husband was there, working at his wood shop. I told him about it and he chuckled and asked if he looked hot when he was old. I mean, he did if it was really him. ETA, since everyone keeps speculating over the fact that I didn't write down the dang license plate number. A, I was shocked. B, I wasn't paying that close attention as the truck was coming at me that I was looking at the plate number. Yes, I could tell there was a color difference between the almost black hair on his head and the lighter gray around the ears. I'm not blind. As for seeing the license plates, I said in another comment that yes, they were my state plates, but honestly I don't even know what my husband's plates are. I only know mine because it's a repetitive number pattern. Yes, this happened, and I wouldn't have posted a lie, because honestly I'm a little scared of being vilified by a bunch of strangers on the internet, and I'm an honest person. Was it a glitch? Maybe. I thought that's what this sub was about, geesh. In the summer of 2001 I was in a large Midwestern city. A huge storm was coming in and I remember the reports saying it was going to be a bad one. So later that evening this storm arrives and I look up and I swear I see this big huge ship hiding in the clouds. The whole cloud system was very round and circular. That event started a series of events that took place over the next week to 10 days. One night there was a large UFO, like a smaller craft from the larger one, was hovering over an area near my appointment. 2 helicopters soon approached it and it took off. I started to question my sanity. I ended up telling a friend so we go out one night. On like Thursday night at 9 p.m. or so and there were almost no vehicles on any road. Interstates were like completely absent any traffic. We go by this big billboard which was advertising these various lectures with titles like The Human Genome, The Next Evolution, Human Reproduction Saving the Planet While Preserving Humanity. It felt weird. Like the signs were meant for not humans and they were all like this crash course on aspects of human development. At this point we are both freaking. We pull over on a side street to just process things and then we turn back on the same road which was suddenly filled with traffic again. Interstate just like it should be. The signs were no longer up or they were, but now it was just normal like advertising a book signing and more standard fare. For years I have felt I had a temporary break with sanity and the only thing that keeps me turning the events over is that there was another witness to some of it and just a few years ago I brought it up to her and she assured me she experienced the same thing and that it also still freaked her out. We both described later feeling we were somewhere we weren't supposed to be. I described it to her like some sort of staging area or something. That's what happened. I am sure there's a rational explanation for it, but after 20 years I've never been able to find one. There was even more to it and it involved triangle-shaped UFOs that seemed to be following my vehicle on more than one occasion. It was honestly a living nightmare for a while. For about 5 years after I was obsessed with the experience. Over time I've just sort of chalked it up to temporary insanity or collective delusion. The below glitch experience happened to me around 15 to 17 years ago when I was first dating my then girlfriend, now wife, and I was a new young driver. I think experience happened around the year 2004 to 2005 and this has relevance. For the record, I wasn't not under the influence of alcohol, any kind of drugs legal or illegal, and wasn't under the weather or exhausted in case anyone suggests. I have never been a great timekeeper and was often late for things. This particular evening I had to arrange to take my girlfriend to the cinema, but I got home from work a little late, and by the time I left home after getting ready myself, we didn't have long to get to the cinema before the film's start time. I jumped into my car, a 92 Fiat Punto, which was extremely common in the UK at that time for young drivers as they were cheap to insure, and put my foot down a little to try and claw back some time. I turn a corner a little fast onto the last straight road to my girlfriend's house, which was about 3/4 mile long, straight, housing one side and grass to the other and street lights. To my surprise, the road was clear of traffic this evening, so I kept going a little faster than I should. I reached down to skip the track on the stereo and look back up, and I suddenly see halfway down the road a figure had appeared out of nowhere. The figure stood in the middle of the road holding his hand out for me to stop. As I get closer, I noticed it was a police officer and thought, oh shoot. I slow my car and pulled over to the side of the road to a stop. I opened my window and the officer walks over to me and he asks me in a stern voice to exit the vehicle and come to the back of the car. I got out as instructed and he starts asking me questions. Where I was going. Where I was coming from. How long had I been driving? The usual. He then asks me about the excessive speed on this road, and I apologized and explained I was late picking up my girlfriend, not that was an excuse, and expected him to give me a ticket on the spot. This police officer then pulls out a small notepad and tiny pencil. He rolls through a number of pages with lots of notes I didn't catch, until he found a blank page. As his head was down looking at his pad, he asks me for my number plate. I read it out to him as he jointed it down, and once finished he then looks up at the plate and asks why my number plate was yellow. I explained it came with the vehicle. Hold this thought. He then asks me what the make/model was. As mentioned above, it was a Fiat Punto, to which the police officer said never heard of that model before, and he added it to his notebook. Also hold this thought. The officer then explains he would take his notes back to the station this evening and that he and the other officers would keep an eye out for me and my speeding. He then said I should also get my rear plate changed back to the standard black color, otherwise I may get a fine next time. Hold that last thought. He then gave me a warning and wished me on my way. I jumped back in the car, put my seatbelt on and looked in my rearview mirror as I pulled away. I glanced forward for a couple of seconds and then looked again in my mirror, and the officer was gone. I had a clear view of the road behind me either side. As I said, it was a straight road, but the officer had vanished into thin air. It wasn't until I got home after the cinema I started thinking about what happened, and something didn't match up. First thought was it was someone in fancy dress, but the uniform was much better quality and well looked after to be a cheap fancy dress. I then thought about some of his comments and wondered where this officer may have come from. I did some reason and come to these conclusions for his questions. A. Why were my rear number plate yellow and I should change it back to the black plate? In the UK since 1973 all rear number plates need to be reflective yellow. Vehicles before this year were black. B. Had never heard of a Fiat Punto? As I mentioned, was a very common car during this time in the UK. Any current police officer would have known this. My thought is due to the questions, his outfits and vanishing act that he may be from another time period and glitched into my reality, or if he was a spirit of a dead police officer who doesn't realize he is dead and continues his beat. There is a slim chance it's some police hobbyist who likes walking around late at night stopping traffic, but that much more boring. I shall never know. Thanks for reading. This happened to me and my roommate in our freshman year in college. I was dating a guy at the time and he had come over to visit one night. My roommate goes to take a shower to leave us alone and left her keys behind. Side note, all the dormitory doors automatically lock when you shut them. Boyfriend and I, not knowing she left her keys, figure we don't want to be rude with PDA, so we leave for the basement common area, which around this time of night is almost completely empty. We're down there for probably 3 hours just chatting on the couch, taking selfies, and shooting pool before his ride comes to get him. I walk into the doors and before keying into our floor, I see one of my friends, who tells me my roommate has been looking all over for me. She tells me that my roommate locked herself out of our room and had to call the RA with the emergency phone in the lobby. I'm worried that she's pissed and quickly make my way to our room. Yeah, she was furious at me for leaving and essentially locking her out. We argue for a while and she tells me that she walked all over the lobby, the basement common room, and outside to find me, dressed only in her bathrobe. I stop her. If she checked the basement she would have found us immediately on the couch, by the pool table. She gets angrier, and tells me that I must be lying since there is no couch in the basement common room. We go back and forth until finally I convince her to come downstairs. I'd be happy to show her the green and brown couch that I was sitting on no more than an hour or so ago. Well, you guessed it, no couch. But oddly enough, I found the snacks trash that my boyfriend and I had left behind in the wastebasket right next to the space that should have been a couch. I'm rightly confused and text the boyfriend, who sent me the selfies of us together on that couch. I show the roommate and we both realize something is seriously up. Not only did she pass through the basement a few times and we weren't there, but neither was the couch. Still think it's a glitch in the matrix to this day. So, this is kinda silly and in the very low-key end of glitches, but I wanted to share anyway. A year or so ago a fork suddenly appeared in my cutlery drawer. It wasn't the most beautiful fork, but it was love at first use. The handle was flat but rounded, the prongs were the perfect length and thickness. It was the perfect fork. I had no idea where it came from, but I currently live with my parents and they are very into the whole thrift shopping and antiques scene. Nothing in our house match except our plates, they are hideous, so it would kinda make sense for them to bring home a solitary fork. This fork becomes my go-to fork right away. I exclusively eat with this fork. I will hand wash it if it's dirty, no problem. One day I realized that I never seem to have to wash it anymore, there's always a clean one just waiting for me. It clicks. There's 2 of them now. Wow, okay, my parents must have figured out how much I love this fork and gotten another one. I went away for a short holiday in Sweden and when I got home and sat the table for dinner for the first time there was 3. Now there's 4. I'm just happy I never run out of my favorite fork anymore, but figured I'd just ask my parents, just for fun. They have no idea about the fork. They definitely haven't been taking home single forks over the last year and it turns out they hate these magnificent forks. It leads to a conversation where I had the pleasure of explaining glitches in the matrix to my dad, and he agrees that that's what must have happened. I don't understand how, but I have a multiplying fork that just so happens to be the perfect fork for me. I hope I'll have a whole set when I finally move out. We came to the end of the video, thank you guys so much for watching, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.